Imagine two completely identical rats. Both are perfectly healthy. Both are given a choice between two bottles. One contains plain water, the other contains a morphine solution. And so one rat almost never leaves the drugged water. The other takes only a few cautious sips and walks away. Why? Their instinct for self-preservation is identical. Their biology is practically the same. The drug is exactly the same, but their behavior changes drastically. For a long time, scientists thought the answer was obvious. They believed it was simple. If there is a powerful substance, there will inevitably be addiction. But one experiment cast doubt on this overly simple explanation, because it turned out that the rat wasn't just choosing the substance. It was also choosing the world in which this substance was offered. To understand the scale of this mistake, we need to go back to the laboratories of the mid-20th century. For decades, science conducted the exact same standard test. They took a rat and put it in a cage. It was a tiny solitary confinement cell, just bare metal bars, no company, and nothing to do. Just the rat and two water bottles. Under these conditions, left alone with endless isolation, the animal quickly realized that the morphine water brought relief. The rat would start drinking only that. Over and over again. It would stop eating, stop grooming itself, and eventually die of exhaustion. Based on these grim, sterile experiments, the world built the entire modern theory of addiction. Scientists, politicians, and doctors drew an unequivocal conclusion. The chemical impact of the substance is so irresistible that it automatically enslaves any mind, a hook from which there is no escape. This idea became an indisputable axiom. It entered textbooks and laws. Until the late 1970s, when a Canadian psychologist named Bruce Alexander looked at these iron cages and asked a question that destroyed everything. He looked at the isolated animals and asked, what if we've been drawing the wrong conclusion all this time? What if the rat wasn't killed by the drug, but by the empty cage? Bruce Alexander decided to challenge the entire scientific dogma. He thought, if we want to understand the true nature of addiction, we shouldn't be studying prisoners in solitary confinement. We should study a free society. And so he built an entire world for them. This project went down in history as Rat Park. Imagine a space 200 times larger than a standard laboratory cage. The air was filled with the thick, spicy scent of fresh cedar shavings. In the corners stood cozy little houses made of old tin cans painted in bright colors. There were running wheels, tunnels, and mazes to explore. But most importantly, there was no loneliness. Alexander released 24 rats, both male and female, into this park. They had the opportunity to play, fight, groom each other, and have offspring. They developed a real living social structure. And of course, those same two bottles were left in this park, one with clean water, the other with a sweet morphine solution. According to the old logic, when faced with a choice, the animals should have immediately relapsed. After all, the drug is an irresistible biological force, right? But what happened next shocked everyone. In the isolated, cold cages, the rats from the control group continued to greedily drink morphine, killing themselves day after day. They drank 19 times more of the substance than the residents of the park. And in Rat Park, the solution was practically useless to anyone. The rats would try it, but in the overwhelming majority of cases, they quickly lost interest and went to the regular water. They preferred to play, run, and wrestle with each other. Not a single rat in the park became addicted. Not a single one brought itself to death. It turned out that when you have friends, when you have freedom, smells, tastes, and meaning in every new day, you simply don't need a painkiller from reality. But Alexander went even further. He created the ultimate tension. He took rats that had been sitting in solitary cages for almost 2 months and were already heavily hooked on morphine. They had formed a severe physiological addiction. The scientists simply took them and moved them to Rat Park. What should have happened? Science at the time said that the brain was already rewired, there was no turning back, and they would continue to pump themselves full of the drug. But once in society, these animals did the incredible. They voluntarily went through withdrawal, endured the pain of quitting, and stopped drinking morphine forever. They returned to a normal life. Social connections proved stronger than chemistry. This experiment reveals a harsh truth that is both terrifying and inspiring at the same time. John Calhoun, in a mouse experiment called Universe 25, showed how the death of the spirit occurs where meaningful social roles disappear. But Bruce Alexander showed us a way of salvation. He proved that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Destroying oneself is not just a manifestation of weak will or the power of some specific temptation. It is the reaction of a living creature locked in an invisible cage, a cage of loneliness, stress, and a lack of purpose. The rots in the iron boxes had nothing but the substance. The residents of the park had a full life. We often look at people who have lost themselves and think that the problem lies entirely within them. But perhaps it's time for us to stop looking only at the person, and it's time to take a close look at the cage we have built in our modern world. This thought changes everything. It provides a concrete plan of action. If right now you feel like you're stuck, if you repeatedly scroll your feed until your fingers go numb, overeat, or consume something more destructive just to drown out the inner emptiness, hear this above all else. You are not broken. Your behavior is a reaction to a cold cage. Your first step is to stop hating yourself. If you make a mistake, always give yourself another chance. The second step is to find a thread to other people. Don't try to beat this in isolation. The way out begins where loneliness ends. Make an effort. Start focusing not on your own problems, but on the problems of others, especially if you are in a position to help. If someone close to you has ended up in this cage, our animal instinct is to get angry and punish, but every rejection only makes their cage even smaller. Addiction cannot be cured by rejection. Show them that a way back exists, that you are here to help them remember what it is like to live in the park. And what if everything is fine with you? Comfort and external well-being alone will not save us if there is emptiness inside. To avoid ending up in an invisible cage tomorrow, build your rat park today. Create deep connections. Find meaning in your work. Invest time in the people around whom you feel alive. The rats have taught us a crucial lesson. None of us were created to survive alone. We were created to be together. And if the opposite of addiction is connection, then the keys to all our cages have always been in our own hands.